Young Turks now has audio, the TYT Audio Network, podcasts of some of your favorite shows and new shows, including one with Nina Turner, former Ohio State Senator. She's going to do We the People with Nina Turner, talking about equality and justice and seeing that through the eyes of regular Americans who are affected by politics and policy. Everybody check it out at tyt.com/audio.
Canada is currently suffering from its own issues with right-wing populism. Doug Ford, the brother of troubled former Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, has been elected Premier of Canada's most populous province. Mr. Ford's center-right progressive conservatives wrested control of Ontario from the Liberal Party for the first time since 2003. The Conservatives took 41% of the vote, winning 76 of 124 votes in the province, according to local media. So a couple of interesting things there. In Canadian politics, things can change quickly. That Liberal Party that had been in control for some time no longer qualifies as a party because of how poorly they did. And it was pointed out that the progressive conservatives did well, but not as well in the popular vote as it ended up being reflected in the number of seats they got, which is an experience we can relate to that here. That's sort of the way it works out a lot of the time. Now let's focus though on Doug Ford. Mr. Ford's only political experience is a single term on Toronto's City Council, and his role as an advisor and unofficial spokesman for his brother Rob, who you probably remember while mayor confessed to crack cocaine use and public intoxication. He later died in 2016 from a rare form of cancer. And I want to give you, a lot of American voters aren't going to be that familiar both with Canadian politics as I am not, and also with this individual. So let's talk about Doug Ford. He called his followers the Ford Nation, and his campaign materials and signs largely omitted any mention of the Progressive Conservative Party in favor of the family brand. He once challenged a heckler at a council meeting to meet him on the floor while repeatedly shouting, "Bring it on, big guy." His campaign canceled the traditional bus for journalists and carefully controlled access to Ford during public events. By the way, Ford has used the term fake news many times. He loves that in addition to many of the other slogans that Donald Trump came up with.
I'm glad that we export our best goods.
Our best goods and bads.
And then we tax them.
So let's talk a bit about policy. Mr. Ford has vowed to eliminate Ontario's federally mandated tax on carbon emissions and cut gasoline prices, a move that could increase such emissions. Both of those are going to make it harder for Trudeau and Canada to continue their battle against climate change. He's also, he says that he's going to drastically improve healthcare access in that region. He's also, at the same time, cutting taxes. Doesn't explain where he's going to get the money to improve the healthcare. He's also shutting down tons of hospitals and schools. And so it seems to be a pattern through all of his policies that he makes these gigantic promises. He doesn't use the word strongly, but you can sort of hear it in the background without ever explaining how he's going to do it or how he's going to pay for it. So welcome to the club, Canada.
So what's a dumber campaign promise? $1 beer for everyone, which is in his platform, or the wall? Just embrace debate. What do you guys think?
I prefer the $1 beer.
Yes,
I'll take the beer.
That's going to work for people.
Yeah, but who runs on $1 beer when your brother died or who passed away had addiction issues?
I am shocked that Trump has not already picked this up as his 2020 campaign issue.
He's very pro-business though, so I mean, he's going to look out for the companies that make the beer. He's not going to.
Well, in this particular case, what's actually going on is there are minimum price restrictions on certain types of goods. I'm assuming to cut down on consumption of it. In the same way that raising the price of like a Big Gulp is intended to stop people from drinking as much of it, they theoretically could sell it, for almost nothing because there's nothing in it except for sugar. But the governments are artificially increasing the price to lower consumption.
Right. So Ford is kind of like Trump light. I mean, he's basically, one of his other campaign promises is that Canada's open for business, notwithstanding the fact that we are now in a trade war with Canada, but under his platform, that's what he's saying. So all the corporate tax cuts, the dialing back of certain environmental protections, basically this is just an echo of what the Trump administration is doing. It's just happening north, and one of the reasons that I think he had the support that he had in the last election is similar to why Trump had the support here, which is that in general, there are economic problems throughout the world. Many of them have actually been exported by us. I still believe that we're living in the wake of the financial crisis 10 years ago, and that's a continuing problem. And people just want to vote for whoever's not there. And if the people there were more liberal, if the people there were more progressive, if the people there were more right, in politics, in their various governments, administrations. They just want to vote for whoever wasn't there.
You're right,
and that's
yeah.
what's happening now. That's what happened with Trump. That's what's happening throughout the world.
Yeah, so Nomi and I were actually discussing this off air earlier, and I think that you're absolutely right about that, because you are seeing this rejection of traditional politicians or establishment politicians throughout the world. And it doesn't matter whether they support populists on the right or the left. They just want someone who's extremely different, radically different. And I think that the more exploitative politicians are just taking advantage of that. You know, they see that there's frustration, economic frustration, a lot of heartache, a lot of people who are angry, and they capitalize off that anger. And you're seeing it throughout the world. And I think that the one remedy to that is, of course, better politicians who actually represent their constituents, but also more importantly, better coverage, news coverage, media, journalism, people who actually focus on the issues that matter. And so the economic issues that really speak to most people throughout the world are the very issues that get ignored. The housing crisis in America, not a sexy topic. People don't want to talk about it, they don't care. And when I say people, I'm talking about the people in power, people in media who oftentimes are members of the elite who can't afford housing. Homelessness is through the roof right now, and no one really talks about it. And so those are the issues that really unify everyone, regardless of political identity or affiliation. And I really want us to do a better job in talking about those issues.
You're absolutely right that this is an international issue, because you see, what's happening with Marine Le Pen's rise. She narrowly avoided leading France. You see Rodrigo Duterte in the Philippines. There are right-wing leaders, populist leaders that are getting to the forefront and gaining power. But I think that this Canadian issue is specifically aligned with what happened in the United States, because Trudeau ran as a progressive, but is actually doing a lot of things, especially on the environment, that are way more regressive than he actually campaigned on, similar to a little bit what happened with President Obama, who campaigned way more progressively than he actually legislated. And then, look, Donald Trump, a right-wing populist, came to the forefront, and now we're seeing that with Ford a little bit.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.